Hi and welcome back to the SD card Super Shootout. In this particular one, if you haven't seen the previous video, do go and check that one out beforehand. But in this one, we are lining up all the SD cards that we have and checking out if they actually stack up. As you can see, these are the factory, or what it says on the front of the cards, the speeds of them in megabytes per second. Next up, we took all of the cards and tested each of them on the Blackmagic Design Speed Test app, which is free from the App Store and I'm sure available on their website. So first off, the SanDisk Extreme Pro Compact Flash card claimed 120 megabytes per second. Actually, well, it's not that. Same goes for the SanDisk, but that is a little bit closer to what it suggests. The PNY card below, it does okay. And we can see how the rest are going. Very sadly, the SanDisk Ultra 12 megabytes per second write is very slow. The Computer Bay comes in at less than half of what it advertises as well. This is all very disappointing. The micro SD cards are also, they don't perform all that well either, but then in many cases they don't need to. But considering that the biggest number, aside from the capacity on the front of an SD card, is the speed, and we will assume for this that you expect it to be write speed, these cards are not stacking up all that well. However, the SanDisk is the best of the pack. And this is a SanDisk Extreme Pro, and SanDisk cards come in all sorts of different flavours, but that one we found to be quite good. Also, the read speed on the SanDisk Ultras were very good, in stark contrast to the actual write speed that was available there. I'm not really sure why that is. Alas, those were the results that we found. But indeed, does this matter? Well, I think it does, and it matters on many levels. One is, as a consumer, you make your purchasing decisions based on that. So, in a very real world sense, let's have a look at the GH5, and it records at 100 megabits, amongst other speeds. And these are megabits, different to megabytes. 150 megabits also, and it'll soon be able to, via software update, do 400 megabits per second. So that's all well and good. Which of these cards, then, will still be usable at that point? Well, as it turns out, not very many. 150 megabits, that's the blue ticks there. The SanDisk ones are fine, as they are on 400 megabits as well. However, not many of the others actually will perform, even though the specs on the front of the card suggest that they should. This is very disappointing. Now, many people will say that the figure advertised on there isn't necessarily the same. Basically, the figure there is going to be the best you get. But when you're buying a card such as... oh, where's it gone? Well, the one in the camera recording now, which is the Lexar 1000 speed 150 MB megabytes per second. Now you notice all these cards say megabytes per second. This one, although I recommend it on another video for the GH5, this one performs terribly. It has a write speed of about 40 megabytes per second. Bearing in mind, 150 whatever it says, 150 is a lot more than 95. It does not perform anywhere near as well as the SanDisk Extreme Pros. Now, I bought this because the GH5 is 150 megabit camera. That says 150, looks about right to me. It's nonsense. In fact, I won't get away with using that on 400 megabits, even though I will with that. Now, the classes are much the same. What I have sort of learned is, in the most part, the different classes, SDX, CHC, U3, 2, Class 10, all the rest of it, they do mean something. But I would put it to you that it's more marketing than anything else. You see, 1,000 speed here and 600 speed there, and there will be various other speeds written across different cards. They're not equal. So I highly recommended these cards. I expected them to be a lot quicker than those. They're not. Massively disappointed by that. In any event, megabits being different to megabytes, well, that does change things somewhat. But all in all, I think it's about time that the manufacturers started being honest about the speeds that you're going to get. Or, let's all talk the same language. If your camera is 150 megabits, let's have cards that are advertised in megabits, not megabytes. Let's forget the classes and SDXC and class 10. Just give us a number so we can match the camera's number to the SD card's number. That can't be too difficult. And let us know where we actually stand. And also then, I'm saying here that the SanDisk Extreme Pro is the best. It still doesn't get within 10, well, in that case I'm writing, doesn't even get within 20% of its advertised figures. Incidentally, I tested all three of these cards, and that's the best figure I could get. And that was the best performing one. The only card that outshone was the SanDisk Ultra on read. On write, it was appalling. So none of these cards are doing what their advertised speeds say they will do. That's simply not good enough, and it's really confusing, because what you end up doing is spending a fortune on cards that you don't need. If you were truly to have a 150 megabit card, 150, one of those, you would expect to pay a lot of money for it. You simply don't need to. That said, this card, which I've been rather quiet about because it performed reasonably well, this was bought off Amazon and was one of 5 cards at the same time. Incidentally, this is the only one that survived. So I reckon they're 6 months old, and that's the last one. The others did die, even though performance-wise it's not too bad. So on most cameras, these cards will work nicely. On the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, in fact, which I find to be the most temperamental of all devices, the same with Blackmagic Video Assists. They like to have the right cards. Those work across everything. Interestingly, although the write speeds are, well, they're not great, but they're not too bad on these little SanDisk Ultra micro SD cards, the most awkward camera for those is this, the little Sony 4K thing, which actually won't record in 4K with those cards. Oh well. So all in all, in summary, SD cards are not what they seem. Sometimes they can be, but you get what you pay for. In general, we found SanDisk to be the best, but when you go into Disk Utility to reformat some of these, particularly compact flash cards, these are actually Lexar cards anyway, with a SanDisk badge on. I imagine there's a couple of factories that make the whole lot. However, there's got to be a better way than what we're currently doing.